Snow Bridge, a tiny town straight out of a Christmas postcard, was glowing under the twinkling lights of Christmas Eve. The air smelled like cinnamon rolls, frosted pine, and something magical, something that didn't happen every day. Daniel Hayes, 39, a single dad with a weathered smile and tired eyes, strolled through the snow-covered street holding the mitten-wrapped hand of his daughter Nora, age 8. She skipped beside him, humming a Christmas tune, her little pink hat bobbing with joy. "Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tunning in form? We love seeing how far our stories travel. We love you to subscribe our channel for more interesting single dad stories." Daniel's life had become simple. Work, school runs, late-night mac and cheese, bedtime stories. And although he'd never admit it, loneliness clung to him like cold winter air. They stepped into Warm Crumb's Bakery, their holiday tradition spot. The place was buzzing, laughter, clinking mugs, peppermint steam floating around like happy ghosts. But in one corner, time stopped. A woman stood frozen by the Christmas cookie display, her messy auburn hair falling over puffy eyes that clearly held too many tears. Daniel's grip on Nora's hand loosened. His boots felt glued to the floor. Nora gasped softly, "Dad, that's—" But she didn't finish, because the woman, Amelia, looked up, and everything stopped. No Christmas magic, no warm cocoa, no jingle bells, just shock, pain. Familiarity. Daniel stiffened. His voice was low, guarded. "What are you doing here?" Nora just stared, wide-eyed. Then in the smallest, most heart-shattering voice, she whispered 2 words, "Mom's back." The room went ice cold. Every cookie, every whisper, every sparkle froze. Amelia didn't step closer. Instead, she slowly crouched down, staying a safe distance. Her eyes full of regret, hands trembling, voice breaking like a fragile ornament. I don't expect anything. I just needed to see you too." Daniel stepped slightly in front of Nora. His voice cracked, but only with controlled anger. "You left. No calls, no letters. 3 years, Amelia. You ghosted your own family. Now you just show up, like it's a freaking Hallmark commercial." People in the bakery pretended not to listen. But their eyes said otherwise. Amelia swallowed, fighting tears. "I didn't come to break anything. I came because I was already too broken." Silence. And somehow that hurt more than anything. Nora looked between them, her tiny voice shaking. "Mom, why did you leave?" Out of all questions in the world, that was the one Amelia feared most. She whispered, "I lost myself, and I thought I wasn't good enough to be your mom." Inside Daniel, something broke. Not forgiveness, not yet. But anger shifted into something dangerously close to pity. Then a couple nearby whispered just loud enough, "Isn't that the woman who abandoned her family and ran away?" The words hit Amelia like a slap. Daniel, surprisingly, turned, not to her but to them. "That's none of your damn business," he said sharply. The bakery fell silent again. Finally, Daniel looked back at Amelia. "Whatever this is, we're not doing it here. Come with us." But he paused, voice flat. "Don't expect open arms." They walked out together, not as a family, not as enemies, but as 3 people with unfinished stories. But what happens when one painful conversation turns into the truth no one was ready to hear? Snow crunched under their boots as Daniel led the way, his posture rigid, coat collar turned up against the icy wind. No one spoke. It wasn't the silent kind of comfortable. It was the heavy, suffocating, "dang, I should have stayed home" kind of silent. Nora held both her parents' hands, looking like a little peacekeeper caught between 2 worlds. They reached Daniel's small apartment building. Nothing fancy, just a modest 2-bedroom unit with flickering holiday lights and paper snowflakes Nora made herself. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. Inside, Christmas warmth filled the room. A little tree with handmade ornaments, the scent of hot cocoa lingering in the air, faint jazz Christmas music playing on the old speaker. It felt safe, unlike the storm of emotions swirling between the three. As soon as they stepped in, Nora dashed into her room and returned holding a tiny box, wrinkled red gift paper, tied with a crooked ribbon. She looked at Amelia with those soft, hopeful eyes. "I made this 3 Christmases ago," she whispered. "I made 2, one for Daddy, one for you, just in case you came back." Just in case, dang. That little phrase shattered every wall in the room. Amelia took the box like it was made of glass. Her voice cracked. You saved this for me?" Nora nodded. "I didn't give up on you. Daddy said sometimes people get lost, and they need time to find their way home." Daniel looked down, jaw clenched, hands buried deep in his pockets. His eyes didn't meet Amelia's. Amelia sank into the old armchair, hugging the box to her chest like it was air, like she needed it to breathe. Her eyes were filled with tears she was no longer trying to hide. Daniel walked to the kitchen. The sound of pots and pans clanking was his emotional armor. He reheated leftover chicken soup, grabbed slices of fresh bread, and set the table without a word. The 3 of them sat around the little kitchen table, lit by nothing but soft Christmas lights and years of unspoken words. Nora, being a kid and totally not understanding the emotional weight of life's drama, happily slurped her soup and giggled randomly, trying to make the grown-ups smile. Daniel's voice finally broke the tension. "So," he said, staring at Amelia, "you say you didn't plan this reunion, yet here you are." Amelia took a deep, shaky breath. "I moved back to Snowbridge 2 months ago. I didn't mean to run into you like this. I just wanted to know you two were okay, that's all." Daniel's jaw tightened. "But you didn't call, not once." She didn't try to defend herself. Her voice was soft, raw. "Because I was afraid you'd say I don't deserve to hear her voice." Silence. A painful one. After dinner, Nora fell asleep on the couch, worn out from emotion she couldn't fully understand. Daniel covered her with a blanket, lingering for a moment, protective and gentle. Then he sat across from Amelia again, separated only by the dim glow of Christmas lights. Amelia's voice cracked through the silence. "Daniel, do you know how close I was to giving up entirely, truly giving up?" Daniel didn't respond. He kept his eyes on the window, but his breathing changed. "I wasn't just sad," she continued. "I was drowning mentally. Emotionally, I felt like I'd broken our family beyond repair and that I didn't deserve to be a mother." Daniel finally turned to her. His voice was low, soft yet sharp. "You still left, Amelia. You chose to walk away. You let your pain win." Amelia nodded fiercely, tears falling freely. "Yes, I broke, I ran, and I regret it every single day." Then she reached into her coat pocket. She pulled out something small, a tiny chipped red toy fire truck. Daniel froze. It was Nora's favorite toy when she was little. "I found this the morning after I left," Amelia whispered. "I've carried it every day since, because even when I wanted to disappear, I couldn't forget her." Daniel stared at the toy, eyes burning, like he'd just been punched by 3 years of emotions. And maybe, just maybe, that little toy held more truth than any words could. But Amelia still had one truth left, one that would turn Daniel's guarded heart completely upside down. The glow of the Christmas lights flickered softly across the old wooden floors, casting gentle shadows on the walls, a strange mix of cozy peace and emotional chaos. Nora was asleep on the couch, curled up beneath a snowflake-patterned blanket, her little hand still holding the corner of her favorite stuffed reindeer. She looked peaceful, unaware she was at the center of 2 broken hearts trying to heal. Daniel stood near the kitchen counter, arms folded, leaning back against it like he needed the support to stay steady. His face wasn't angry anymore. It wasn't even cold. It was tired. The kind of tired that came from years of holding everything together alone. Amelia sat on the edge of the sofa, holding that tiny chipped red fire truck, the memory of their daughter, their life, and their shattered past. The room was quiet, too quiet. Finally, Daniel spoke. "You kept it all this time?" She nodded, eyes glassy. "Every day, every coat, every move, every breakdown, it reminded me of her, of you. Of hope." That word, hope, hung in the air like smoke nobody could clear. Daniel ran a hand down his face, exhaling hard. "Why now, Amelia? Why after 3 long years? Why return like this?" Her voice was barely a whisper, trembling but honest. "Because I was finally strong enough to face my damage." She paused. Then, with the courage she had left, she said it. "And because I don't have a lot of time left." Daniel froze. "What?" His voice turned sharp, protective, not just as a father, but as someone who once deeply loved the woman in front of him. Amelia breathed shakily. "I was diagnosed. A congenital heart condition. It's genetic, and it's moving faster than they expected." For a moment, the world stopped moving. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. His posture shifted, not defensive anymore, but stunned. His eyes filled with something raw, something real. "Are you dying?" he asked, voice barely controlled. The silence that followed said more than any words. Amelia didn't cry this time, she just looked sorrowfully peaceful. "Without treatment." "Probably with treatment. They don't know, it's risky, complicated, I may not respond well, but I'm fighting, I'm not giving up again." Daniel's arms slowly fell to his sides. His heart pounded like a freight train. He looked at her not with blame, but with fear, terrified fear. She continued, voice soft but steady. "I don't need you to forgive me, Daniel. I don't even expect it. What I do need is a chance to give her at least one real memory with me, one where she didn't have to chase me, one where I stayed." Her words hit him harder than any anger ever did. That wasn't manipulation. That was surrender. That was truth. Daniel didn't speak. He couldn't, but his shoulders, once rigid and defensive, seemed to lower just slightly. And for the first time since she walked into that bakery, there was no anger in his eyes, only pain, and something dangerously close to compassion. A soft, rustling sound made them turn. Nora, now awake, but still wrapped in her blanket, sleepily walked over to Amelia. She didn't hear the grown-up stuff. She didn't understand heart conditions or emotional trauma, but she did see something simple. A sad mom, a hurting dad, a family trying. She gently wrapped her little arms around Amelia and whispered, "You can stay now, Mommy. I won't let you get lost again." Amelia broke, not with regret, not with weakness, but with a kind of strength that only comes after surviving your own chaos. She sobbed into Nora's arms. Daniel, broken, conflicted, overwhelmed, quietly looked away and wiped a tear he didn't see coming. But could a broken family rebuild when time, forgiveness, and even life itself were running out? The next morning, Snowbridge looked like a fresh snow globe, quiet, calm, and dreamy. Outside Daniel's apartment, soft flakes drifted like gentle whispers, but inside, emotions sat heavier than winter clouds. Nora was up early, humming some Christmas tune, already wearing her fluffy pink slippers and Mickey Mouse pajamas. She darted between rooms like a little sugar-fueled elf. But Daniel, he stood at the kitchen counter, coffee steaming in his hands, mind tangled in thoughts he couldn't silence. Amelia was awake, too, sitting on the edge of the sofa, looking small, like someone afraid to take up space. She held the fire truck toy again, gently running her thumb over the chipped paint, eyes distant. Daniel cleared his throat, feeling unusually awkward in his own home. "Coffee's ready," he muttered. She looked up. "Thanks." Her voice was soft, sincere, but careful, not wanting to cross invisible boundaries. Nora charged into the room with her usual spark. "Wanna make gingerbread men with me, Mom?" That word, Mom, still felt fragile, like glass about to crack. Daniel watched, partly hesitating, partly curious. Amelia blinked, surprised, but smiled through it. "Gingerbread men, you sure you're not trying to summon a cookie army?" She joked, finally sounding a bit like the mom she once was. Nora giggled. Maybe, but they'll be the yummiest army. Daniel almost smiled, almost. And so, for the first time since she came back, Amelia wasn't a ghost in their home. She was trying, they baked. Well, sort of. Flour went everywhere. Cocoa powder exploded like some chocolate volcano. The kitchen turned into a snowy disaster, but it wasn't sad anymore. It was messy, real, alive. Daniel stood by the doorway, watching. Amelia gently helped Nora fix the broken gingerbread arm on her cookie soldier. See, she said softly, some things break, but broken doesn't mean gone. Sometimes broken things come back stronger. Dang, even Daniel felt that. But peace didn't last long. Outside, neighbors passing by paused at the window, peering in, judging, whispering, like they were watching a scandalous movie. That's her, someone muttered outside. The woman who abandoned her family. She's crawling back now, probably wants money. Poor Daniel, that man deserves better. Daniel heard it, and so did Amelia. Her shoulders instantly tensed, her hands trembled. Shame crawled back like a shadow. Daniel stepped toward the window, anger boiling. People should mind there. But Amelia touched his arm softly. Her voice was painfully calm. Daniel, they're not wrong. Not entirely. You're not a monster, he said firmly, surprising himself. You were sick, Amelia. You didn't just run, you... I ran, she cut in gently. I broke, I hurt people, real people. She looked at Nora, then at him. I hurt you? Daniel didn't argue, but something about the way she said it, honest, accepting, not defensive, shifted something. Not forgiveness, but understanding. Later, when Nora went to watch a Christmas movie, Amelia and Daniel quietly cleaned the kitchen together. No yelling, no emotional explosions, just quiet, hurt, healing. Finally, she broke the silence. Daniel, if this heart thing gets worse, if time runs out, can you just... Her voice cracked. Can you make sure she never thinks I left because I didn't love her? Daniel didn't speak. Didn't know what to say. So instead, he placed the chipped toy fire truck gently on the table between them and said, voice steady, she'll always know. A single tear slid down her cheek, not the broken kind, the healing kind. But could love find its way back, when trust was still buried under years of pain? The next few days rolled by like slow winter clouds, soft, uncertain, and loaded with emotions no one dared to fully unpack. Amelia stayed, not because Daniel asked her to, but because Nora pleaded with those puppy eyes no parent could resist. And Daniel, he didn't stop her, but he didn't quite welcome her either. He was cautious, alert, always halfway between stay and don't get too close. One evening, Daniel stood by the small kitchen window, quietly fixing his old toolbox. Something he always did when stressed: tighten screws, adjust bolts, fix things that weren't broken. Amelia walked in, wearing an oversized sweater, holding 2 mugs of peppermint hot cocoa. You still fix things that don't need fixing? She asked softly. He smirked, but not fully. Maybe I'm just trying to keep something from falling apart. They both knew he wasn't talking about the toolbox. She handed him a mug. Some things you can't fix with tools, Daniel. His voice was low. Some things can't be fixed at all. Silence. But this one wasn't cold. It was real, painful, necessary. Later that night, Daniel stepped outside to clear snow from the front steps. Snowbridge neighbors walked by, pretending to be polite, but gossip lingering in the air like exhaust. One old man nodded at Daniel. Your ex-wife's back, huh? Daniel paused. Yeah, people make mistakes, the man said. But sometimes, he added, tapping his chest, the heart knows when to try again. Daniel let that sink in. Was it that easy? Was love about trying again, or protecting what was left? Inside, Amelia sat on the sofa by the little fireplace, helping Nora write her Christmas wish list. It wasn't fancy, just a notebook and some glitter pens. Nora scribbled something quickly and tried to hide it. What's that? Amelia asked with a smile. Nora blushed. Nothing, it's silly. Amelia gently played along. Come on, kiddo, I gave birth to you. I know when you're hiding something. Nora giggled, then reluctantly showed it. Mom's staying for Christmas and maybe forever. Amelia's breath caught. Daniel saw it too from the hallway, quietly watching. His heart squeezed in a way he wasn't ready for. Nora twirled the pen between her fingers. Daddy said sometimes moms don't leave because they don't love you. Sometimes they leave because they're hurting. Amelia's voice was soft. He said that? Nora nodded with a sleepy smile. Daddy says broken hearts don't mean broken people, just people who need time to heal. Dang, even Amelia had tears in her eyes. Daniel didn't step closer. But something in him loosened. Months of anger, or years of grief, felt like they were beginning to shift, not disappear, but move. The hours slipped into quiet night. Nora was tucked into bed, hugging both parents good night for the first time in 3 years. Amelia stood by the doorway, a soft light from the Christmas tree reflecting off tear-filled eyes. Daniel lingered nearby, uncertain, like every step he took forward had to be measured, controlled. Finally, Amelia spoke, her voice low but not weak. Daniel, you took care of her. You held it all together. You protected her when I couldn't protect myself. I don't just owe you a thank you. He looked at her unsure. She continued, I owe you my life because you saved hers. He didn't speak, couldn't speak. Instead, he gently picked up the chipped fire truck from the mantel and placed it in her hand. He didn't say a word. But his eyes didn't hold anger anymore, just something fragile, something new, something almost like hope. But could a house rebuilt with hope withstand the storm of love when it returned? Snowbridge mornings had a comforting rhythm, soft snowfall, sleepy chimneys, and neighbors grabbing coffee from the corner cafe. But inside Daniel's apartment, it wasn't just winter. It was change. Subtle, quiet, careful change. Amelia wasn't just passing through anymore. She was trying to belong. And Daniel felt it, even if he wasn't ready to admit it. That Saturday morning, Amelia was in the kitchen, hair tied up messily, struggling with pancake batter like it was some NASA-level experiment. Flour streaked across her cheek, batter splattered on her sweater. Daniel walked in, chuckling. You sure you're not building a pancake factory in here? She responded playfully, rolling her eyes. Don't judge me. The pancakes are emotionally unstable, just like us. He couldn't help but smile, real smile. Dang, it had been a while. Nora ran in, dancing in socks across the kitchen floor. Dad, Mom flipped a pancake midair and didn't burn it. That's like a mom's superpower. Amelia placed the pancake on the plate proudly. Watch out, Gordon Ramsay. There's a new chef in Snowbridge. Daniel leaned back, arms folded, quietly observing, not the mess, not the chaos, but the peace. For a flicker of a moment, it almost looked like a home again. Later, Daniel stepped outside to shovel snow from the walkway. He heard Amelia's laughter from inside, soft, genuine, relaxed. The kind that disappeared 3 years ago. The kind he used to love. He paused, leaning on the shovel, watching through the frosted window. Amelia and Nora, laughing, flipping pancakes, dancing around like two goofballs. And suddenly something inside him cracked. Not with anger, not with pain, but with longing. He whispered to himself, dang, we used to be happy like that once. Inside, Amelia noticed him hesitating at the doorway. She gently approached, not too close, not too fast. You okay? She asked softly. He nodded. Yeah, just remembering things. She didn't push, didn't pry. She simply said, sometimes memories hurt. But sometimes they heal too. He glanced at her. No walls, no attacks, just truth. She was changing. He saw it. And for once, he didn't fight it. That evening, after Nora fell asleep, Daniel sat by the fireplace, fixing a broken Christmas ornament. Amelia entered quietly, sitting across from him. You always fix stuff, she said gently. He smirked. Guess it's easier to fix things than people, she thought for a moment, then spoke carefully. People don't always need fixing, Daniel. Sometimes they just need someone to stay while they rebuild themselves. His eyes flickered. Not angry, not guarded, just thoughtful. Then, without forcing it, she said something she'd never said before. Daniel, I'm not asking you to forget what I did. That wouldn't be fair. She looked him in the eyes, no escape, no excuses. But I am asking you to see who I'm becoming. Something about those words hit deeper than any apology. Not a plea, not guilt, just growth. Real, raw, painful growth. Daniel didn't speak, but he set down the ornament, and for the first time, he didn't walk away. And then, just when the moment felt too fragile to touch, Nora, half asleep, wandered out, rubbing her eyes. Mom, Dad, can we all drink hot chocolate together? Normally, this moment would feel forced. But tonight, it didn't. Daniel got up and grabbed 3 mugs. Amelia grabbed the marshmallows. And for the first time since she left, they didn't feel like 3 broken people in one house. They felt like one healing family. Hot, they didn't say much. But sometimes healing doesn't start with words, it starts with staying. But healing always comes with a test, and theirs was just around the corner. Healing wasn't a straight road. It wasn't always cozy evenings and hot chocolate moments. Sometimes it punched back. Hard. A few days later, the cozy little apartment felt different, more alive, more hopeful. Almost like the walls were learning to breathe again, but trust was still tiptoeing around the edges. Daniel was making coffee early in the morning when the doorbell rang. He wiped his hands on a towel and opened the door and froze. It was Mrs. Holloway, Snowbridge's unofficial gossip queen, which meant trouble. She held a casserole dish like a peace offering, but her tone was anything but peaceful. "Well, hello, Daniel," she said in that sweet but not sweet voice. "Heard Amelia's nesting here again. My, how quickly some folks forget." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You didn't bring food, you brought rumors." She smiled like a cat. "Oh, honey, the whole town is talking. People want to know what happens when the woman who walked out decides to walk right back in. You letting her rewrite the story?" Daniel didn't answer. But Amelia heard it because she was standing in the hallway, white as snow, still, silent. Mrs. Holloway spotted her and wasted no time twisting the knife. "Amelia," she said sharply, "you left a good man and a beautiful little girl. Now suddenly you're back baking cookies like your Mother of the Year. That's not redemption, sweetie, that's reputation rehab." That was it. Daniel stepped forward, voice cold, controlled, dangerous. "Enough, that's my daughter's mother you're talking about, not your problem. Not your entertainment." Mrs. Holloway blinked, stunned, because Daniel Hayes never snapped, not publicly, not like that. She stuttered, trying to recover. "Well, You were just leaving," Daniel said, firm, final. She backed off, muttering, "The whole town's watching, Daniel." He shut the door, not angry, not shaken, just deeply, deeply protective. Amelia stood totally still, hands trembling. She wasn't crying, she wasn't angry, she was embarrassed. Hurt, and for the first time since returning, she looked like she might leave. "This is what I do, Daniel," she whispered. "I show up, I hurt people, I break things." She looked toward Nora's room. Even the things I love most." Daniel's voice was firm but calm. "Don't do that. Don't make yourself a villain just because you were sick and lost." She shook her head. "I still left. And you came back," he said. "Different. Fighting, that matters." Silence. A different silence this time, not pain, not tension, but truth. Later that night, after Nora fell asleep, Amelia stood by the window, watching the snow. Daniel joined her, leaning on the opposite side of the frame. She didn't look at him. "I don't think the town will ever forgive me," she whispered. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. "They don't have to," he said softly. "I'm still working on that myself." A pause. Then he added, "But I am working on it." That sentence, simple, honest, imperfect, meant more to Amelia than any perfect apology ever could. She didn't smile, but she breathed, like someone finally coming up from underwater. Then something gentle happened. She turned toward him slowly. "So," she said in a fragile but playful voice, "does that mean you won't throw me out if I burn another batch of pancakes?" He chuckled. Not forced, not awkward, real. "I'll consider it," he said, "but the cookies, that's a total deal breaker." They stood there together, not touching, not yet, but closer than before, not healed, but healing. And somewhere down the hallway, Nora, only half asleep, smiled. Because kids don't need explanations. They just know when love is quietly coming back home. But second chances don't come easy, especially when love, health, and time are running out all at once. Winter evening, warm lights, soft jazz, a quiet house that felt, for once, like peace. Daniel was in the kitchen preparing dinner, chopping veggies with military precision, wearing that old gray hoodie Nora called his dad uniform. He could hear laughter from the living room. Real laughter. Amelia and Nora were building Lego houses, tiny, colorful little homes with too many windows and zero structural logic. The kind of home a kid believes anything is possible in. Nora stuck a crooked chimney on the top and proudly announced, "This one never breaks because it's happy." Daniel paused. That hit harder than he expected. In all the homes they had been in, only this one felt like it had a chance to stay whole. Then it happened. It was small, silent, but it changed everything. Amelia laughed at something Nora said, then suddenly stopped. Her smile faded, her hand slowly pressed to her chest, not dramatically, not like in the movies, just slowly. Almost gently. But then her breathing grew shallow, color draining from her face. Daniel's knife dropped instantly. "Amelia," she tried to brush it off with a shaky smile. "I'm fine, just a little dizzy," but her voice was slurring. Her posture unsteady, her hands trembling. This wasn't exhaustion, this wasn't nerves, this was something else, something worse. Daniel was next to her immediately, not angry, not confused, not hesitant, just one thing, terrified. Her knees buckled. He caught her just in time. Her head sank against him, barely conscious. Nora gasped, backing up, tears flooding instantly, not because she knew what was happening, but because kids always know when something is wrong. "Mommy," Daniel tried to sound calm, but his voice cracked. "Call Dr. Lawson, now." Amelia looked up, weak, pale, but calm in a way that made it worse. She had felt this before. She just hoped it would never happen here. Not like this, not in front of them. Daniel helped her to the couch, trembling slightly, more than she was. Nora stood nearby, scared, hugging that little toy fire truck with both hands like it could fix everything. Amelia managed a faint smile at her. Hey, Peanut, I'm okay, I just got a little tired." But her voice was too soft, too frail, too not okay. 10 minutes later, Dr. Lawson arrived, coat half-zipped, medical bag in hand, concern replacing his usual calm. He checked Amelia's pulse, blood pressure, oxygen, listened to her heart quietly, too quietly. Daniel watched closely. He wasn't clueless. He recognized that silence, that doctor silence, the kind that means this is serious. Finally, Dr. Lawson spoke, quiet, measured. "You need full cardiac care, Amelia. No more putting it off. No more ignoring symptoms." He looked at Daniel. Then, even more seriously, he looked at both of them. "She will need help. Real help, a support system, stability. That means home, peace, no emotional storms." Daniel nodded slowly, but something inside him was shifting fast, not out of pity, not out of obligation, something deeper, something anchoring. After the doctor left, it was quiet, snow quiet, scary quiet. Amelia was resting on the sofa, covered in a blanket, looking small, fragile, but not weak. Nora sat close, holding her hand, watching her breathe like every second mattered. Daniel sat across, rubbing his hands slowly, not knowing what to do with feelings he couldn't fix. Finally, Amelia whispered, voice small but steady. "That's why I came back, Daniel." He looked up. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She simply said, "Not to be forgiven, not to heal the past, but to be here while I still can." Daniel stared at her not as the woman who left, but the woman who fought her way back, through darkness, through shame, through fear, through her own failing heart. Then, without planning it, he moved closer. Not too close, but close enough for her to feel, "You are not alone anymore." He didn't speak, but his eyes said everything. She didn't speak. But her said, "I won't run this time." Nora, half asleep between them, whispered, "Mom, you can stay as long as you want." This time, no one stopped her, not even Daniel. But could a house built on healing ever rebuild love too? Snow Bridge had quiet nights, the kind where time seemed to slow down, fireplaces crackled softly, and you could hear your own thoughts more than you wanted to. Tonight was one of those nights. Amelia slept in the guest room, doctor's orders. No exhaustion, no stress, no late-night emotional breakdowns. Daniel quietly checked on her once, twice, maybe 3 times. He stood at the doorway watching her sleep, not to make sure she was okay, but because for the first time, not as the mother of his child, not as someone who broke him, but as someone who was hurting, healing, trying, he cared. Truly, deeply, more than he wanted to admit. He gently adjusted the blanket around her and whispered, "Stay." Not out of anger, not out of fear, but because he finally meant it. The next morning felt different, slower, softer. Amelia joined breakfast, wrapped in a cozy sweater, her hair pulled back. No makeup, no fake smiles, just her, real, vulnerable, quietly beautiful. Nora sat beside her, practically glued to her side like a little koala, coloring Christmas cards. Daniel cooked. Amelia smiled, noticing. "You always make breakfast on Sundays?" she asked. Daniel shrugged. "Yeah, it's just kinda our thing." "Smells real good," she said warmly. "Like actual diner-level good." He gave her a playful smirk. "Don't hype me up, woman. I got a reputation to maintain. Single dad, master of pancakes and emotional damage." She laughed, a real laugh, not a nervous one. Not an unsure one, a comfortable laugh. The kind that makes you forget pain for a moment. Later that day, Daniel took Nora to her art class at the community center. He expected Amelia to head home and rest, but instead she stayed. She helped kids paint. She tied little shoelaces. She told a crying boy that his painting didn't look weird, it looked unique. And Daniel, standing by the door, noticed something. She wasn't just trying to survive anymore, she was trying to live. After class, as they walked home, Nora happily skipped ahead, humming. Daniel and Amelia walked slower, quiet, peaceful, but there was something new in the air between them. Not tension, not awkwardness, something warm, something safe. Finally, Amelia spoke softly. "You know, I used to think I didn't deserve happiness." Daniel glanced at her. "And now," she looked up, eyes clear, not sad. "Now I'm trying to learn that you don't have to deserve good things. Sometimes you just have to be brave enough to hold on to them." Daniel stopped walking. Those words didn't just land, they hit. She kept walking, snow crunching beneath her boots. Daniel stood still, watching her. Something inside him finally shifted, not because of pity, not because of fear, but because her strength was beautiful. That evening, after Nora fell asleep, they sat by the fire again, just like before. But this time, the air felt different, gentler. Daniel finally said the words that had been sitting in his chest for 3 years. "I don't know if I can forget everything that happened," he said quietly. Amelia nodded slowly. "I understand." "I still think about the nights Nora cried herself to sleep," he added, voice tight. Her eyes filled, but not with shame. With understanding. "But," he said, softer, "I'm starting to remember something else too." She waited, heart pounding. "I'm starting to remember," he whispered, "that before everything went wrong, we were a really good team." Tears slipped from her eyes. Not of pain, but of relief, hope. Healing, she didn't move, he didn't touch her, but emotionally they finally did. Then the softest moment happened. No drama, no sudden romance, just something real. Daniel reached across the small space between them and gently placed the chipped red fire truck on the table between them. Their eyes met. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. His eyes finally said, "I'm not just protecting our daughter now. I'm protecting us too." And Amelia, for the first time since coming back, believed he meant it. But Christmas Eve was coming, and with it one final test, one that would decide if broken hearts can truly find their way home. Christmas Eve. Exactly 1 year since the day fate dragged 3 broken hearts into the same bakery, and everything began to change. Snow fell lazily across Snowbridge like tiny flecks of magic, soft, slow, peaceful. The town sparkled with fairy lights, warm cocoa scents drifting through chimneys, carolers humming around corners. Christmas here wasn't just a season, it was a feeling. Inside Daniel's apartment, it finally felt like home, not perfect, not fixed, but whole. Nora was dancing around the living room wearing Christmas pajamas, placing ornaments wherever she pleased. No symmetry, no rules, just joy. Amelia gently set the star on the tree, her hands no longer shaky, her heart no longer afraid to feel. Daniel just watched, not from a distance this time, but with them by choice. The house glowed differently. The laughter sounded different. Even silence felt different. It felt safe. Later in the evening, they exchanged small gifts, nothing fancy, just meaningful. Nora gave Amelia a handmade bracelet, red, pink, mismatched beads, held together with a string of pure hope. "It's not perfect," Nora said shyly. Amelia smiled, tears in her eyes. "Neither am I, but you held me together too." Then Amelia, voice trembling with emotion, gave Nora a journal with 2 words embossed on the cover, "Home Stories." "We'll fill it," she said quietly, "one memory at a time." Then she turned to Daniel. She hesitated, then handed him a small box inside the fire truck. But not just the fire truck, repaired, polished, placed on a small wooden stand with one engraved line. "The day love didn't give up." Daniel stared at it, emotion rising too fast to hide. In that moment, he saw everything differently. The woman who left wasn't the woman standing before him. The woman who broke wasn't the one fighting to rebuild. She didn't return to erase the past. She came back to honor it, to make new memories, better ones. Daniel stood still for a long moment. Then he did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He reached out and gently took her hand. She froze, not because she was afraid, but because she felt home. He spoke softly, voice low but clear. "I can't promise perfect, Amelia," she nodded. "I never wanted perfect." He held her hand a little tighter. "But I can promise honest and present and fighting for the good days and the bad ones." Her eyes filled, no drama. No breakdown, just pure relief. "You're staying," he said, not a question. She nodded. "I'm staying not because you let me, but because we're ready." He let out a shaky breath, a different kind of breath, acceptance, forgiveness. Something like love, but deeper. Nora, who had been quietly watching, burst into the moment like sunshine. "Group hug," they laughed, but they did it. And for the first time, it didn't feel forced, or broken, or temporary. It felt true. Snow continued to fall outside. Slow, gentle, like time wasn't rushing anymore, like life had paused to let healing settle in. Amelia rested her head on Daniel's shoulder. Nora leaned against both of them, 3 people. Not perfect, not traditional, but finally whole. Later that night, Daniel whispered something without looking at Amelia. "Maybe next Christmas won't feel so heavy." She smiled softly. "It won't." And then he said the one sentence she never expected to hear. The one sentence she never dared to hope for. "If you're still here," she looked up, eyes shining, heart steady, voice sure. "I'll be here," he nodded, and whispered, "Then let's begin again." Dizzy the Christmas they rebuilt, not with perfection but with presence, not with promises but with choice. The Christmas they became a family again.